Council of Environmental Deans and Directors of the National Council for Science and the Environment webinar series on online education and open education resources. And I'm the Associate Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences at Southern New Hampshire University, and I'm also a member of the CEDD Executive Committee. A few things that we use for this webinar series, and number one is call in using your computer if you haven't done so already, and if the presenter writer, you should be muted. Your questions through the WebEx chat box and address those questions to everyone. And we'll address those at the end of the presentation. Typically, the presenter will handle the questions. All is being recorded. Just a hearing on this webinar series, Learning Management System, or LMS, and perhaps known as Blackboard, of course, where 75% of the content is delivered online, and that could be pertaining to programs and or courses. We highlighted 20 to 70% of the content is delivered online, and again, could be referring to programs or courses. And MOOCs, massively open online courses, you may also be hearing. We put this web series together was the fact that online enrollment has been increasing dramatically. An order of magnitude, actually, over the last 10 years, and comparatively, area education as a whole has increased by about 60% during that same period. You see there is double-digit growth through most of the period. Options for the next few years are that double-digit growth turn to single-digit growth, perhaps, on an annual basis. These slides were put together by EduAdventures, who is a consulting and marketing firm in Boston, Mass. I'm happy to say that we have Phil Wigger, who's the Dean of ASU Online, the Executive Vice Provost at Arizona State University. To the ball.
Okay.
And then,
okay, very much. Thank you much, John. Hopefully, you're looking at the first slide, Disruption, Innovation, and Quality of the nation's largest public university.
We see that.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, John, and Southern New Hampshire. What I'm going to do is provide a quick overview of A, because what we at ASU Online is integrally related to the ASU. And then I'm going to spend some time talking about the motivation and goals and strategies for ASU Online courses, both in terms of what we do in terms of quality and integrity. And I'd like to give some examples very quickly of courses, of what some of the courses look like and some things that you can do online that are impossible to do face-to-face. So I'm saying that the challenge at ASU, Arizona State, revolves around access. Oops. Okay. Let me go down here. Here we go. ASU's mission is to provide higher opportunities to all qualified students. We are unique in that we are the only Research One university that is the sole provider in a metropolitan area that's consistently rated one of the fastest growing in the country. Mission is to really reflect the diversity of the Arizona population. And what we at ASU, we have a saying at Arizona State, which is that what we want to do is reflect population and the diversity of the population of the state. And we don't want to develop our reputation based on students that we exclude, but instead we want to develop a reputation based on students we include. We've had growth over the past 10 years since President Michael Crow came on board. We're pretty big 10 years ago. We had 57,000 students. Now our total enrollment is 73,000, and about 50,000 of those are undergraduate. Perhaps more importantly, size is certainly important in understanding challenges. Another important component is understanding that in our effort to reflect the diversity of the population of state, also have an enormous number of students who are Pell eligible. So last year, the undergraduate Pell eligible population was about 26,000, which is an increase, almost a 200% increase over the past 10 years. Minority student population is increasing very quickly. The undergraduate population, we turn about 18,000 minority students. That's over 10,000 who are Hispanic, and about 3,000 who are African American in a state where the African American population is about 1.5% overall. Where that places us, other large public metropolitan schools, undergraduate minority enrollment is about a third. University of Minnesota is about 18%. You can see many of the schools above us have very large Asian populations as well, and then there are some that are smaller than ours in terms of students. Just a marker. In terms of Hispanic students, we award more Hispanic bachelor's degrees than any other school in the country. We're sort of master's degrees that we award Hispanic students and a number of PhDs. Very important final consideration, and then I'll move a bit to talk about ASU Online. An important final consideration is the fact that the population of students that reflects the diversity of the population of the state. So make a commitment to accept students that would not normally be accepted at an R1 university. And again, comparing ourselves to the University of Minnesota, we have in the 50% of the high school rank. We take about 14% of our students. Has less than 1% of their students in that half of the population. And even the second quartile accept about 12% more students in the second quartile than University of Minnesota. What, of course, is that retention and graduation rates are an important challenge, and we have addressed assiduously as we grew and as eligible population grew. We have addressed the issue of retention, regarded as a very indicator of whether we're succeeding in each of the past 5 years through a variety of efforts. We increased the freshman retention rate at the same time that we dramatically increased the Pell eligible population. Objective here, our goal, by the way, is a 90% freshman retention rate by 2020. 80% retention rate would be equivalent to any of the other large public universities with very good reputations in the country, the Ohio States and Texas and Maryland and places like that. And to set the stage, Arizona State is about a population of students that reflects the diversity of the population and making them successful and not taking students away because we want to limit our size in any way. With that overview, I'd like to turn a bit to ASU Online, because in the same way that the universal is driven by the issue of access, the motivation for online to become involved in online education in a big way several years ago is all motivated by access. Showed earlier some EduVentures data, and here is another graph from EduVentures. And basically this graph shows is that in the adult degree completion market, which is students who are 25 or older, 1987, public universities have essentially been flat. Very, very little. All of in that sector, in terms of taking courses, virtually all of the growth in the for-profit sector. We have, as public universities, essentially prior to a few years ago, basically we ceded the adult degree completion market to universities, and that has all kinds of consequences. Prepare ourselves in the fact that enrollment in four-year public universities is at an all-time high. Last year it was 7.6 million, meaning, and this is one of the things that led to the highest bachelor's degree attainment in the U.S. that we've ever achieved last year, 30% for the first time. But the downside is, while there's 7.6 million enrolled in public universities, there were 7.7 million 25 to 34-year-olds who had secondary education but no degree. Essentially, the failure rate for public universities is about 50%. About 50% of the students who start public universities are not completing. We've had the result over the past 20 years of moving the U.S. from first to sixth among OECD countries in demographics, 25 to 34-year-olds with a post-secondary degree. Passed up by a lot of countries, and we continue to fall. In 1990, we were first. We're now 16. So the motivation for ASU Online, frankly, is just that population demographic, the 20 to 35 or 40-year-olds with some post-secondary education but no degree, and have them successfully complete a post-secondary degree. This is the average age of students, graduate students in ASU. Students, the average age is 21. The online students, and by online, by the way, online are engaged in the degree program where 100% of the activity occurs online. And so we allow online students to take on ground classes, or ground students to take classes that are intended for fully online students. The student population is different from the ground population. The online population, 25, 40-year-olds with some post-secondary education but no degree. Most of them have tried for-profit education and they've chosen not to continue. We get into this market in a big way, started making big commitments to it in about 2008. Started with an MBA program and some engineering programs that enrolled about 1,000 students at that time. And as we at the beginning of this fall semester, we now have 6,500 students. And we will have about 7,500 starting in January. Through 2015, variance in the projection, as you can see. And the reason for the variance in the projection is there are a lot of unknowns. Some have to do with what the Department of Education may or may not do. Some of it has to do with the impact of technology operations like Coursera, et cetera. But there's a big difference in projections, but we expect to have somewhere between 15 and 30,000 students by 2015. And we'll have 20,000 students by 2020. Now, in order to, when we started our operations in about 2009, we had a set of strategies. And if you've taken management courses, what I'm going to show you reflective of an article by Michael Porter in Harvard Business Review many years ago. But he said, look, in a competitive industry, in order to differentiate yourself among competitors, you have to develop some strategies and make a cue to those strategies no matter what. You have to eliminate things that don't get toward those strategies and add things that you don't currently have in order to achieve the strategies if it's necessary. Okay, we have 4 strategies that we're going to pursue. Number 1, graduation rate. Unlike universities, we are not about enrollment. We're about graduating students. As I said, most of our students have been a couple of places before. We want them to be successful this time. Efficiently deliver rigorous, excellent courses. A problem with online education is it has a degraded view in the general public's mind as iterations of online education weren't very good. The courses were easy, they weren't rigorous, and the only way to fight against that brand perception is to overcompensate. That's exactly what we plan on doing. The third you have to do, though, and this is something that we did learn from the for-profits, is to be successful here, we have to provide very high quality, on-demand customer service. We can't, for universities traditionally do, which is admissions a hurdle, an enrollment a hurdle that students have to figure out how to do in order to be successful. Competition, service-oriented economy, and we want to provide very high levels of customer service to our students. And the strategy that we adopted was to maintain leading-edge technology position, and the reason for this is twofold. Traditional technology is changing in ways dramatically. Is that make it absolutely essential that if you want the highest level of online education, you want to adopt many of the new educational technologies that are coming online. But the wanted to do goes back to what I do about the ASU on-ground campus. We do serve as a unit that can develop technologies to a level where adopted by the on-ground campus in order to make the on-ground students more successful. Hybrid courses or the online courses that they might take. And so strategies, and in order to achieve those strategies, there's a kind of set of tactics that you have to focus on. Just as an example, if you look at efficient delivery of rigorous courses, that having limited course and degree options in order to be efficient. We have very innovative instructional designers. We make a choice to work through the existing academic units because we think that the existing academic units have the knowledge capabilities and the faculty expertise to deliver at the highest level. We want to use the faculty and faculty teams that we can, and then train those faculty in how to deliver at a very high level online. And the point I want to make is that online isn't as easy as taking some courses, putting them up online, and registering students. I think to succeed at a high level, it really requires you to do a dozen different things quite well. Some of these are easy, some of these are quite hard, but it's complicated. But if you do it well, I rewards for the students in the programs. Roughly 9 degree programs. I list the undergraduate degrees we have, and you can see we have grad degrees in health education and engineering and healthcare and information management. Similarly, our largest degree program right now is psychology. There are oriented programs that typically any online programs enrolls a lot of students in. So the BS SEN is a program with a lot of students. Criminal justice, program with a lot of students. The Masters in Education have a lot of students. The interesting thing has been receptiveness of the consumer market to digital arts degrees. So with up history, I did not think it would be a successful program. In fact, it's one of our fastest growing programs, and it has a very big market, in part because there just aren't a lot of places where students who want a degree in history can go and have delivered online. With that review, I'm going to talk briefly about our courses and course quality and academic integrity. We follow the Quality Matters rubric for most of our courses. This is a nationally recognized set of standards for quality in online instruction, and also have a set of faculty expectations. Whenever we begin work with a new faculty or a new program, we require them to do certain things. We work with our instructional designers. We require them to have office hours. We require them to undergo training. In fact, this is made, again, we now offer a lot of training. It might be the way the LMS we use is Learning Studio, but on campus they use Blackboard, and frankly, the LMS isn't a big decision. But in Studio, we have a boot camp that all new instructors who teach online must attend. It's 2 weeks, and it takes about 15 hours to complete. We have seminars in copyright, in intellectual property, in gaming, in micro mini lectures, how these things and how to become a better online instructor. Currently, we have 700 courses, ASU Online, 1,200 courses for face-to-face students, which is we call an I-course. Now, the whole thing I wanted to discuss in terms of quality of the courses is something that comes up all the time, which is academic integrity. We have a booklet, which we refer to as Cheaters Never Prosper, being cheek. We have a set of solutions that we try and implement in order to achieve a level of academic integrity in our courses. First, logical solutions. We don't have courses that have 2 midterms and a final. Instead, it's learning often. A typical week, we'll have 7.5-week classes, and a typical week of class may have 3 or 4 assessments. They'll take it harder for students to cheat. We make mistakes in low-stakes assessment. We emphasize writing assignments. Use proctored test sites and all sorts of other things. Then technology-based solutions. Technology is getting better and better in this area. So identity verification software, currently we're using Axiom. We have browsers for exams. Things like showing a question at a time and tracking the time and duration of exam access is done in Learning Studio. And we also have the ability to remotely proctor exams through companies like ProctorU, where it's intrusive proctoring, where a student is actually being watched on camera, and in other words, that recording of the student can be reviewed if anything untoward happens. And then we use a set of community building solutions as well. We know what cheating is with students and with faculty. We have students sign something test acknowledging that they've read and understand their academic integrity policy. Things like this have actually been shown to reduce the incidence of academic integrity by 50 to 70%. And with that overview, I'd actually like to show a couple of courses, and I'm going to start with this quote you've probably seen by Herb Simon. Improved area education requires converting teaching from a slow sport to a community-based research activity. I give you what a couple of courses look like. And to switch, I'm going to use a keynote presentation to do this now. First, this is just what a course looks like in Learning Studio. And as you can see on the left-hand side, we have 7.5-week courses. Every unit in a course is developed sequentially, so students can work through what is in the unit. They start at the top. They generally work through the lectures. They can hit the discussion board. All of the activity is contained on this one home page. In course development, we use a lot of videos, but we virtually never use a video that's longer than 10 minutes long. I'm not here. This is a very talented geology faculty member that we have in the School of Earth and Space Exploration named Ariel Anbar, who is a tremendous course called Habitable Worlds. And I'm going to and I'll stop it fast because I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear it. Ariel talking about the dissemination of light from a light source.
Now, why does it work that way? It's useful to get a little bit of a feel for this. It's really not that difficult to grasp. First of all, qualitatively, not even thinking with any mathematics, think of light that's emanating from
that.
Yeah, good.
Good, and I'm going to
that source from a star or from a flashlight or a light bulb. Right, so your source of light, and the spreading out away from that source of light. Well, light is going in one direction, but if it's a star, it's radiating out in all directions, smoothly in all directions. So the energy that was concentrated on the surface of that star is now being spread out over a much larger area.
And like I say, we have a lot of videos like that are anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes long. And when you talk about the flipped classroom, the importance of those videos, the student can watch that video over and over and over until they understand it. Another, not to the same extent as videos, because these are much more expensive to build, we will use interactive simulations. Now, since I'm talking to scientists, I'm actually going to explain this a bit before I run it because it goes pretty fast. What we wanted to do in Habitable Worlds was develop a science course that kind of flipped the laboratory experience. And so I think the typical freshman laboratory experience is one where content or listen to an instructor, go into a lab, and then validate what they learned. What we do was return the laboratory experience to what it really was, which was kind of a proxy for actually exploring in nature. And so some simulations to go to Habitable Worlds require students ahead of time to develop hypotheses. So this is a good one. It follows this one. You can see the system at the right, and there's a probe. What we're going to do is move the probe around and do readings regarding the luminosity of sun, energy from the sun as a distance. And when they do, when they take reading, the reading will show up on the graph that's on the left side of the screen. The thing here is that we actually require the students ahead of time to develop the hypothesis as to the luminosity varies as a function of distance. And so takes about a minute, but it gives you a good idea of what you can do with this type of simulation.
What students are presented with is the experiment. Students are presented with a question and possible solution to that question. They get the one that most appeals to them. Selected which answer appeals to them, what they think is correct, then instructed to carry out an experiment. Our simulator detects whether they have conducted the experiment correctly or not, and if not, instructs them to improve data collection techniques. For here, students did not collect enough data, from the inner solar system. And so they've been instructed to zoom in and collect additional data there. Students tell whether this data correctly matches the line, and so they are instructed to zoom in on the data to see if it matches. You can do this by detecting the zoom graph. The incorrect hypothesis is considered a win scenario, just as much as finding the correct answer and confirming it is also a win scenario. Students which answer they think is correct and compare it. Way learn through doing rather than having an instructor tell what the correct answer is.
And so, again, I think that's an example of something that would have been very difficult in a face-to-face classroom or even a lab, and it also allows us to do things students in environmental situations that would be impossible to do in the lab. The thing that I wanted to show you, and I actually just two more slides that I wanted to show you also is this that students have. So this is a guy named Frank Timmies, who is one of our astronomy professors. What this is demonstrating is the search capability that we have with transcripts. So this, as you can watch this 4.5-minute video, and went to it, they locate something that Frank was saying about, for example. And so we have the capability to have students type in that search word and across or underneath the video, all the where Earth shows up are highlighted and students can go directly to it. It looks like this.
2111, is it a fact dreamed it? That by means of electricity, the world matter will become a great nerve, vibrate thousands of miles in a breath point of time. So wrote Daniel Hawthorne on what would that Earth is in motion, how shaped by plate tectonics, death from birth, and indeed, it does seem that when planets formed, that destinies were fixed because the fundamental property of the lithosphere is still active, it's still alive. To be contrasted with something like there at the bottom where we have Mercury, a very small planet, so it lost its heat relatively quickly.
And there, the student was searching through the transcript in order to find certain keywords. It wasn't Frank that was being jumpy. The student selecting different points and immediately the video going to those particular points. Just to, I'm going to skip this.
All that.
I'm going to say the other thing that I want to point out is that it's possible to have multiple instructors in a class. So this is a 100-level class. It actually involves 8 different instructors who are teaching it, and should the instructors have a presence in the class.
I'm a professor of cultural anthropology in the School of Human Evolution and Social Change here at Arizona State University.
That is really the end of my presentation. I wanted to give you an idea, I hope, for this of what you can do online, as well as the amount of I don't want to put the significant amount of challenges that online provides. And I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them. Hand this back to you. Or
Okay, but for now, you need to go to your slides, perhaps. Thanks, Phil. And actually, if you could pull up your chat box, is where you will be able to see the questions that are submitted.
I will do that. Yep, there we go.
And all those.
Okay, so the first one is from Peter Sandry. Can you explain the reason for having online students just online and on-ground students not online? Yeah, and so there are, as I said, students can take Microsoft Auto Update for those guys who are watching. Students can take classes. Students only take online classes. And sometimes the online class will be the same for online students and on-ground students, but allow is for an online degree program to move into face-to-face, and a face-to-face program to move into online. And a lot of the reason for that is because there are different tuitions that the students face. And so out-of-state students go to face, pay much higher tuition than online out-of-state students. So most of the reasons around that have to do with tuition rates. Also kind of just ease of being able to keep track of what's going on. I hope that's helpful. The difference is large. If you're an on-ground out-of-state, you pay about $20,000 of tuition a year. If you're an out-of-state online student, our tuition schedule is about $1,400 a course. And say in 10 courses a year, you're only paying $14,000. And online students, by the way, don't take 10 courses a year. They'll typically take about 8 a year, in which case the tuition differential is about half of what it would be if they were on ground. About the nursing program. You use laboratories. We do have virtual labs, and all of them we use. One of the vendors that we like right now and that we're working closely with is one called Late Night Labs. In a certain amount of scale, they're very willing to work with you and kind of customize a package of lab activities for students. I'm not sure there are outside vendors, but the one that comes to mind right now is Late Night Labs. So customer service requirements are quite different. And for that reason, we use outside vendors who assist us in doing what they're good at. As I said, I don't think universities are particularly good at marketing and admissions and customer, or I shouldn't say admissions, but handling students through the admission process things. And so, yeah, we do have call centers. The call center actually is right above me right now. Call centers are open about 18 hours a day. An example of a different staffing model. The other thing that we had to do is change many processes in campus to make it better and more efficient. Because, as I said, what works for online students or what students will simply be unacceptable to online students. And so rather than develop a different graduate admissions area, we used processes in the university undergraduate admissions so that all students get the level of service that we require for online students. Is that helpful? Good. Anything else? I wouldn't say a major investment. We do have two students. Videography is great because videography, the costs have come down incredibly. What you can do with a $2,500 camera now is unbelievable. And so a couple of videographers, and we have 2 studios. The studios probably, my fully decked, cost about $40,000. But frankly, we have a studio where the in the studio probably cost us $10,000. And so you have to have a couple of videographers, a couple of cameras, and have studios that faculty goes to. That's not necessary. A lot of the videography is also done online. It's a huge investment, frankly, which is why online is attractive right now, because all the costs and software costs are being driven down dramatically. Outside of Arizona, about 50% is outside of Arizona. We've been able to crack the international market. We'd like to. About 70 of our total students are outside the U.S., and guess what? About 50 of those are from Canada. We think that over the next few years, international student enrollment will be a huge market. We figured out how to do it, and frankly, I don't see anybody else quite figuring out how to do it either. If you have some great ideas, let me know. Well, at what point will this start changing the financial model of ASU? Because we have so many on-ground students right now, I want to say it's a blip, but it's not a huge part of the financial model. I think when we get 15,000 students, I mean, we're already big enough now, at 10 or 12% of the student body. We're already large enough now that people take us very seriously. In financial model, I'm not sure it has to be before the financial model really changes for on-ground students.
Well, I know that you have to catch a flight soon, so I think we're going to let you go. We really appreciate your time and effort in talking with our audience today. Actually, another question just came up as I'm speaking. So,
okay.
Do you mind addressing that question?
Yeah, not at all. The fact is, faculty do both online and face-to-face classes. It's delegated within the department, and so the department chair has the same type of responsibility for doing online classes. It's a decision they'd make as to whether it's going to teach graduate or undergraduate. It's just another modality in which they have to deliver classes. Faculty excel and love the online environment. Some faculty want nothing to do with it. Luckily, a large enough place that we have a lot of options available to a lot of different faculty.
Looks like a question there from Peter Andre above the last question.
State legislature views this as, I'd say state legislature and the Board of Regents view this as an important initiative. They believe that the cost of education should be driven down, and that online education is one of the methods by which the cost of education is going to be driven down in the future. And so they're very supportive of what we're trying to do.
Any more questions for Phil?
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for your time.
I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, especially towards that 2015 goal of 3,000 students. That should be interesting.
15 to 30,000, that's what we're shooting. Very much. Talk to you later.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this week, and we'll hope to see you next week. This is Jeff signing out.